vision received was that of blood cells, traveling throughout the body, supplying the much-needed oxygen and other nutrients to the differing members of the body to fulfill their purpose. Once the blood cells are spent, they must return back to the heart to be refilled before being sent out again and fulfill their purpose.
Yeah, that's kind of like how we moved here.
I was thinking
from
there's
Florida.
a lot of parallels.
A little bit. You know, that lining up and all of that stuff, because we had to sell a house over there, a townhouse, and we had to buy a house over here. Before Brooke was doing what she did with the videos, I was walking through the houses in 2006 and taking videos, sending it to her. Do you like this? No. You like it? No. And then we found, this one. And the day that we signed a contract to purchase this one,
sell our townhouse.
She called me afterward and said they found a buyer, we're selling. And we were able to organize it to be able to sell and buy pretty much within days of each other. So we have enough time to sell it over there, drive up here, and within 5 days we were moving in here. So it all worked out amazingly. I was thinking amongst all of the sharing that you've done, that we kind of deviated, but I think that's where the story's going to continue now that we're in Georgia, that you wanted kids. And it was 30. I remember saying 30 and 25.
Yes.
No. The whole thing is there's been a whole lot of revelations of things. So it was 30 and 25 when I last spoke about he really desired kids. Your heart was changing to kind of have kids. And all of that time you spent 10 years in California, you didn't have any kids. Is that because you didn't want the kids, or
so it would have been 10 years ago. So then you would be...
It was 2 years into our marriage.
2 years into our marriage. That was when it was like, okay, now would be an appropriate time to actively start trying to build a family. We got the career going, we got a place that we call our own. Her parents are gone. We got our marriage thing, working. Our marriage was great. We've never had any problems in our marriage. And we're at the age, and
that's the next step.
Obviously financially we would have loved to have been in a better situation, but I think everybody would love to be in a better. So, and I've always had people tell me, and now I tell other people, if you're waiting for the right time to have a kid, you're just going to always wait. And people have told me that. So just, it's a good thing to have kids. Kids and life comes from God, and He wants us to have kids. He wants us to build a family. So that's not something that you should, hide or whatever. Anyways, we're like, okay, let's actively, go through the steps and of having a baby. And obviously this podcast, spoiler alert, it took us 10 years. and so I say that so the next parts kind of makes sense, because we're when you make that decision, you think, well, it could happen
any moment.
It could happen any moment. So
yeah.
we're like, okay, we're having a baby, and and I'll maybe let you speak more on kind of the spiritual things that were happening during church services, and even before we kind of knew we were having trouble conceiving, people were just praying over Alicia's stomach. Maybe you can talk more on that.
It started fairly early on. We had that close couple that was really close to us. They were having kids. We're like, okay, well, we know it's going to take time. We'd have people come visit the church. They're known for I'm words of knowledge and all that stuff. And so they prayed, and I remember specifically the wife said, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words, because when you're in that moment, you don't remember everything specifically, but that it may not happen right away, but it will happen. And so we're like, okay, well, whatever, we kind of took that as
you're getting ready for the delay.
Right, exactly. Okay. We're like, okay, it wouldn't surprise us if it was a couple months, maybe a year or two, that's fine, whatever. And even at that time, I was never upset about not having it, because I knew okay, well, it's just not our time. Like, God's just not wanting. It's hard to explain that, especially with like coworkers and stuff. They're like, so when you guys having babies, and when you started with kids, and I'm just like, oh, it's going to happen. It's supposed to happen. It's kind of hard to explain the God factor with people who don't necessarily believe in that. So I'm like, people who are close to me knew, like, hey, like, I mean, obviously I'm like, God's going to make it happen when it's supposed to happen. Like, that's just, and that's how my brain has always registered things. Like, it may not be like right now, but if God said it's going to happen, it's going to happen. He never gave us a timetable, technically. Yeah. So I mean, who's to know? So yeah, that was people multiple times. I mean, 3-4 times probably. Yeah. And a lot of times it'd be people who were not part of our church would just come and just start praying over Alicia's stomach, and the one lady was saying, it's going to be maybe a little difficult for y'all to conceive, and and God doesn't ever tell you time. God is outside of time. He very rarely tells you time. Just ask Carolyn how long it took us to move here. And so you don't think it's going to be 10 years.
Yeah, you weren't expecting that.
You don't think that. So after, I don't know, 3 or 4 years probably. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, we're having trouble. Yeah. Maybe let's go get checked out. Let's go see is it her? Is it me? Where's the issue? Because if you can find out what the issue is, then you can
try to do something.
Try and fix the issue. And the doctor's just, nothing's wrong with either.
Blood work came back normal. Everything on me came back normal. Everything with him came back. Like nothing.
There's nothing.
Nothing was wrong with any of us. Like either of us. Like
what did that do to your faith?
So we're like, okay. Like for me, that kind of, in a way, it kind of confirms. Like, okay, well, then this literally is a God thing. It's really, it's really just, it's God. We're waiting for something like to happen. Like God's preparing us for something. Granted, we didn't think it was going to be that long, but we did kind of go through some of the process of what's called an IUI, which is it's a medical thing that they do. Pretty much, it's right before IVF when you go through in vitro fertilization. It's kind of like a step. They track everything, and then you have to take medication, and then they come in and just I don't know how to explain it other than they have to mix everything together, and then I have to lay there for a couple minutes and then wait for everything to kind of chill out, and then I get to leave. So basically kind of jumpstart the process of maybe it's just the connecting was the problem. Everything connecting. So we did that a couple times. Nothing. We did that 3 or 4 times. The hormones were like horrific for me. Like I had to like work, and my job was very physical too at the time. So I'm like, I have no focus at work, but these medications were definitely like altering like how my brain was processing things. So we tried a couple times, and then they're like, okay, well, this is not working. So the next step would be like the injections and all that stuff. And then once we're like, okay, so I went to the pharmacy, to kind of see, it was like $500-$600, right? So insurance did not cover. Wow. California insurance did not cover the insurance.
What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean. The $500 or $600 for what?
For like the injections, the injection portion, like of it. Like the next step would be the injections. Okay. They're a little bit more of a heavy medication, and they just insurance does not cover that.
And that's the kickstart.
That's the kickstart.
Still the kickstart.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the next step above, right before IVF, but like it's kind of in between. And I was like, we can't. It was like $500 or $600 for just one round of that. And who's to say if it's gonna be one round or it's like 10? Like we're like, we can't afford this. Like we were fine at the time in our life where we weren't like getting ahead, but we weren't like drowning either. We're kind of just breaking even. Yeah. So I'm like, we can't afford this. Like this is like 20.
This is obviously before we moved in with my parents, before we paid off debt, before we had any. So I mean, we're very much month to month. You know? So anything outside of a big hit out of your budget is a big deal. And again, how many times we have to do this every month for a year? You know, like where's the end to this? Yeah. So we did that a couple of times, and then we just like, okay, let's pull back.
Take a break.
This is, basically, God, you just have to show up. If this is your will for our life, you're going to have to do it. And if it's not your will for our life, then you're going to have to work on our hearts and heal us, you know, because, you know, this is obviously, we want a child, we want a family. And at that point we were thinking, you know, we'd like to have a couple kids, and then, you know, then you get to the point where it's now been, you know, 8 years and still nothing's happened, and you've been tested and you've done these other medications and nothing's happening, and you start going down some rabbit trails. You know, for me it was like, well, maybe we're called to adopt, maybe that's our path. And so you kind of look into that a little bit, then you're like, man, this is more expensive than the medication.
Yeah.
Like it's actually insane how expensive it is to adopt. And they're like, well, I don't know how we're going to do that. And then, you know,
when you were looking, what was that, like $100K? Or
I don't think it's that much.
20?
It's probably 20.
Okay.
It's, you know, but
right.
that's
still a lot of money.
That's not, we don't
have that.
We don't have 20K just sitting around to go through those steps. And, you know, and then my brain, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just going to have a bigger role as an uncle. You know, maybe that's where my investment goes into. We just spend more time with nieces and nephews and invest in their life. And that's kind of where my brain was going. But at the same time, I'm still holding on to the word of God's going to give us a baby. It's still going to happen. So I'm still hanging on to that, you know, so there's, you know, your flesh is telling you things, and but you're hanging on to the Spirit, you know, because I'm still human. I still have thoughts of doubt. I still have thoughts of sadness and emotions. And, you know, you can talk about how many people around us were giving birth. Yeah. You know,
I mean, even honestly, it hit me more once because we took a break after we decided we couldn't afford that, and then we kind of realized that's when we moved in with his parents, and we're like, well, God saved us from having a kid while living with your parents, so we knew, like, okay, well, that really wouldn't have been ideal, you know. COVID happened, so like a lot of things kind of happened in between that and then moving here. So we kind of took a break during that time, and then we knew we were moving, so we're like, okay, well, once we get moved and we get settled, then we can kind of start the process over again. Kind of just start from ground zero, you know. And so we moved here in like the end of June, and then we're like, okay, once things get settled down, we'll kind of start at the beginning of the year, basically. Like we're gonna go full force, and then, like, you know, we're gonna start over again. You know, at this point I'm 35, right? Is that 35? 34? Something like that. And then, so I go
34 and I'd be 39. Yeah. Because in my brain, I'm like, I'm gonna be 40 years old having a baby. You know, my biological clock again is like, you know, gone. It's expired.
So I went to, it's very different. You know, in California, like you have to have referrals to go to different things, right? So and everything's different locations. So I had to find an OB. So I found an OBGYN. And so we went, I did blood work, and they do a test. And this test is supposed to make sure everything's kind of like everything's open and flowing. Everything's supposed to be going like the way it's supposed to, you know? So I get the test done, and I was extremely nervous about it. So, I was kind of like and it was painful. I mean, if I'm completely honest, the test itself was pretty painful. And I remember them saying some things about, oh, it's coming back, and like all these things. So I'm like, I'm not really processing what they're telling. Like, they're not saying it to me. I just heard them saying it.
They're talking.
So I was like, okay. So I was like, I mean, that's weird, but whatever. So I wait, and then
They said what?
Like, because what they're doing is they're pushing saline through everything.
No, but what were they saying?
They're saying like the fluid was coming back.
They're blocked.
Basically, yeah, like whatever it's supposed to not go in where it's supposed to be going. So it's coming instead of going up through, it's coming back down.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because I didn't remember that in that time, but after thinking back, I remember that being said, and I was like, oh, that makes sense now. So, well, kind of. So I get the test results. I don't know, it's probably like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks later. And it says fallopian tube blockage, or blocked. Okay, so I was like, and I don't know a lot about the health field, but I know enough to know, like, okay, well, it means like one of my fallopian tubes is blocked. I mean, at least we found out what was going on, right? We found out the concern. So at that point, I go in, my mom was with me because Scott had to work. And I'm thinking like, okay, one side's blocked. There's still the other side, right? And she's like, so both your fallopian tubes are blocked. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't process that was what I knew like one was, but they told me like both were. So obviously nothing can get up, to the eggs and all that biology stuff.
Not to be scientific, but the fallopian tubes is where the egg is released and it comes down the fallopian tube into the uterus. So were you having periods?
Yeah. I mean, literally everything was going, that was normal.
Huh.
Like I had a little bit of trouble when I was a teenager as far as like that type of stuff. But once I started, that sounds TMI, but like, once that started, I was consistent. Like everything was normal. Like I could track everything, like everything we were doing all that tracking, when we were trying. And so I was like, and they kind of like, it could have just been me being in like my emotional state at the time, but I'm like, she's like, so this is what the next steps are. And I'm like, she's like, we're gonna have to refer you to a specialist to go to like a fertility clinic. She's like, and this is not to say that you can't carry a child. It just means that, everything's not able to connect to form, an embryo. And so I'm still like kind of reeling from what she told me. I'm still not processing it. And so I'm like, well, that was very, she probably said it fine. But for me, like I was in like hyper emotional state at that time where I was like, that's it? Like you're just gonna, I didn't say that, but I was thinking that in my head. I was like, okay. So they sent me to a place in Sandy Springs, which is a specialist. And so then we went there.
You did the same test.
The same test. They did there's two different tests that they can do to test this thing, whether their fallopian tubes are open or not. I did one in California when we initially started the process, and it came back normal. Like everything was fine. So then this one, the one that I did here at my regular OBGYN, said that they were blocked.
Both blocked.
Right.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. So I'm like mentally like processing as time goes on. Mind you, when I found out this part out, like within like, I want to say it was like the same week, we found out like someone announced their pregnancy at church. I was like, okay. Like that's kind of like, that's when it started getting more emotionally hard for me. It's because, I had been diagnosed with this specific issue, and then all of a sudden so-and-so, announces that they're pregnant, and it's kind of like a sucker punch, to my stomach. I was like, that was rough. And Pastor and Brooke knew kind of what we were going through. So them and my parents were kind of the only ones that really knew at that moment. So of course, they want to check in on me to make sure I'm okay. And obviously at the time I really wasn't like super okay. Yeah. But I was like, it is what it is, right? So we go finally make the appointment to go to this specialist. We both go get blood work, and I get this other test done that I got done in California. It's a little more extensive. It's a better way to diagnose the concern that they diagnosed me with. And so I'm in there, and I'd done the test before, so it's not a fun test to get done. So I'm like, and I'm watching, because you can watch everything kind of go. They basically just like dye. So they shoot dye there, and you kind of track the dye going through everything. And I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, like I kind of have an idea what's going on. And then the nurse or whoever was doing it, she's like, she's like, everything looks great. Like everything's flowing the way it's supposed to. And I'm kind of like, what? Like, I'm like, she's like, did you think something was wrong? I was like, yeah, I was told by my previous doctor.
There's no consistency here. I want consistency.
Yeah, I'm like, I was told my fallopian tubes both of them were blocked. She's like, no, everything's fine. Like everything went the way it was supposed to. There's no blockages there. And then she explained to me that the other test wasn't necessarily the best form of test to do to diagnose this specific concern. So I was like, it was like whiplash, because at the time I'm laying there, I'm like, I'm confused, because I'm like, well, what? That other test was wrong.
Yeah, wait, what?
And then I'm like, but this is still good news because there's nothing wrong. But then I'm like mad because that test I had to do, I had to pay for out of pocket, which was not cheap by any means. So I'm like, these like waves of like emotions were kind of going through all at one time. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Were you alone all this time, or was he with you?
During that test, he couldn't be there with me. I think you were there when I had the test done.
So many different appointments, I can't remember which ones are which.
You were there when I had the test done. because I couldn't drive because they gave me a medication to kind of help relax me.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't drive, and it was, it's not a super close drive. So he was, you were there for the test, but, because I remember driving home from there.
Because I went and got blood work done too.
Yeah, so we were kind of getting all these tests done. Basically, blood work, all the tests all redone at the specialist. They do like genetic testing. I mean, they go extensive into all the tests and stuff.
So now the specialist says you're good.
Right.
Okay.
So,
she's good, I'm good, everything's good.
So she's like, and so we have like a consultation once we get all the results back. She's like going over this. She's like, everything looks great. So based on your age, at the time I was 35, she's like, we could do what's called an IUI, which is the first test that we did, or the first one we did back in California that wasn't successful. Right. She's like, but since it didn't work before, we could just jump straight to IVF, which I can't even think right now. Sorry. But anyways, we go through that process. But the funny thing is, thinking back on it, back in California, like going through IVF is like $40,000-$50,000 per round. Okay. For just medications, the whole process, right?
Oh
no guarantee.
No guarantee that's even going to work.
Right.
So coming here, obviously we both got jobs. The job I got had just so happened to get the insurance that covers 90% of IVF, like the process. Okay. Not very, and it's expensive insurance. It's not like every place gets this insurance.
Yeah.
So the fact that like that all kind of lined up, I'm like, that's insane. Yeah. Like how that all played out. I'm like, obviously I could see, God's kind of hand, and because otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford that.
Right.
So I get a call. They're like, okay, well, your medications are ready to start the process. So you have to go to, go pick up the medications. And she's like, actually, this one they shipped to us because this is all the injections and pills and hormones like everywhere. So the total, she asked if we're going through insurance. I was like, yeah, go and run through insurance. She's like, okay, so, and I was like, because I was curious. I knew insurance because I called insurance and asked like 5 million times, do you guys cover this?
Are you sure?
Are you sure you cover this? And they're like, yeah, they went there, we cover 90% of it. Obviously there's still stuff coming out of our pockets, but so I'm driving. I remember vividly. I'm driving home from work, and they call me like, "Okay, well, we're going ahead to process everything. Just want to confirm everything." And she's like, "Since you're going through insurance, normally this would just one round of medications was $22,000 for just the medications. That's not like the process of them going in and retrieving the eggs and planting the eggs and all that stuff. That's just the medications. That's not going under anesthesia and all that stuff, because you do have to go under that as well after you kind of get everything going. So I was like, holy cow, like that's expensive. And but I'm like, thankfully God had provided me a job to where it was still not cheap by any means, but it was not
10% better than 90%.
It wasn't $22,000 for medications.
Yeah.
So I mean, at that point, I'm having to take medications 3 times a day. I'm having to take it at work.
Just take a time out for a second.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions before we go through the whole thing, or
If you were blessed and appreciate listening to this podcast and you would like to support us in our efforts, consider lifting us up in prayer first. Then remember these 4 social media buzzwords: share, like, subscribe, or follow. Share this podcast link with someone else by text, email, or word of mouth in the hopes that they might be uplifted as you were. Like by leaving a positive rating or review with whomever you listen to our podcast with. Subscribe to support the show monetarily with the link in our podcast description. Follow us on all our social media platforms. May God bless you and make you prosperous in Him as you listen and obey His voice.